Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Roswell Mayor and Council meeting of Monday, March 23rd, 2026. I'm Mayor Mary Robichaud, and I would like to introduce my colleagues and council members present. Mayor Pro Tem and Council Member Sarah Beeson, Council Member Alan Sells, Council Member Christine Hall, Council Member Jennifer Philippi, Council Member Aaron Brumley, and Council Member Chris Zack. I will now turn it over to City Administrator Randy Knighton to explain how the meeting is run. Mr. Knighton.
Thank you, Mayor Robichaud, and welcome this evening to everyone. We appreciate your attendance this evening. And in accordance with Section Chapter 3.70 of the City Code, the City Council does hold regular public meetings. And the City Council meetings are for the public to participate and speak on agenda items which do constitute formal decisions by the elected body. We do have several items tonight that will have public hearings, and so we encourage everyone, if you would like to speak on an agenda item, that you complete a comment card. There at the back of the room, we have several staff members here that can assist you as needed. And so we want to make sure that we have an accurate record of the meeting on any agenda item that you would like to speak. And we also, of course, ask that everyone in attendance in the viewing audience visit roswell365.com for a calendar of events. We ask that at this time that you silence any electronic devices. And we again appreciate your attendance here this evening. If you would like to speak on an agenda item, we have several staff members who can assist you. If you wanted to raise your hand at a given point during the course of the meeting, we'll get those comment cards to you. Thank you again for your attendance this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Knighton. So we would like to welcome Mr. Brad Tennant from Bridge of Grace Church for joining, and thank him for joining us this evening to deliver the invocation in a moment of silence. Before Mr. Tennant leads us, I want to take a moment to recognize Bridge of Grace Church for its partnership with North Fulton Community Charities in hosting a satellite location for the East Roswell Food Pantry and Garden located at the church's campus on Holcomb Bridge Road. The pantry opened on March 11th and will provide relief to around 100 families each week. We appreciate their leadership and partnership and thank all who have helped make this initiative possible. Mr. Tennant, thank you for being here.
All right, we will begin with a moment of silence, and we're honoring all the veterans that have fought in all the wars in this country, both alive and they're no longer with us. So if you would please bow your head in a moment of silence, and then I'll offer the invocation. I thank you. Would you please bow your head as I pray? Dear wise and loving Father, first let me say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself, for the measure of health we need to fulfill our callings, for sustenance and for friendship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thank you as well for the freedom to embrace you or the freedom to reject you. Thank you for loving us even so from your boundless and gracious nature. In the scriptures, you have said that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities since you have established those very authorities to promote peace and order and justice. Therefore, I pray for our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, and in particular for this assembled council. I am asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in their lives and joy in their tasks, a strong desire to create the beloved community here in Roswell, Georgia. I pray for the agenda set before them today, Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Roswell. In your most blessed name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, sir. I would like to now invite retired United States Army Master Sergeant David Farborough and a current Roswell City Police officer to please come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And sir, if you would stay standing, we're going to join you right down there and read your proclamation. Today, we are proud to recognize retired U.S. Master Sergeant David Faribault as an esteemed veteran of Roswell, honoring more than 2 decades of military service and his continued dedication to our community. Master Sergeant served our nation for 22 years, beginning his career in the Military Police Corps and rising through the ranks into key leadership roles. His commitment and professionalism led to his selection as a drill sergeant and later as a criminal investigator with the United States Army Criminal Investigation Division. Over the course of his distinguished career, he served in leadership positions around the world and supported critical national security operations. His service was recognized with numerous honors, including Meritorious Service Medal, the Joint Service Commendation Medal, and multiple Army Commendation and Achievement Medals, among many others. Following his retirement from the Army, Master Sergeant continued his service here in Roswell, joining the Roswell Police Department in 2006. For nearly 2 decades, he has served our community with integrity and professionalism, including work in criminal investigations and protecting vulnerable residents from financial exploitation. Today, he serves in the Office of Professional Standards, helping ensure the excellence and integrity of future members of the department. Through both his military and civilian service, David Faribault has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to duty, leadership, and the safety of others. Now, therefore, I, Mary Robichaux, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby name David Faribault an esteemed veteran of Roswell and call upon all of our citizens to recognize his outstanding service to our country and our community, and to remember that there is no higher calling than service in the armed force, and as he has continued to serve our community.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor working for the city itself. My time in the service, sorry if I break up. But I'd like to thank my wife, my daughter. I couldn't have done it without them. Thank you.
Now you're going to take all these pictures.
Yes, there we go. Dave is a great member of our team, been with us 20 years, really excels. He's shy when it comes to this, but fraud investigations, one of our experts. Even though right now he's doing our background investigations on applicants, if we have a very difficult fraud case, we still call on Dave to come and investigate those because they are so complex. very happy to have him as part of our team.
Now you gotta take pictures. Next on the mayor's report is acknowledgement of Government Finance Professionals Week. So I'm just going to read the recognition. If there is anyone from finance, I don't have my glasses. Okay. Yay. You want us to come down there and read it, or? So this is in recognition of Government Finance Professionals Week. Government Financial Professionals Week is a recognition of the dedicated individuals who work every day to ensure the responsible, transparent, and effective management of public funds. These professionals play a critical role in our community, overseeing budgeting, accounting, procurement, auditing, and long-range financial planning, and helping to ensure that our city operates efficiently and in the best interest of all of our citizens. Their commitment to accuracy, integrity, and accountability strengthens public trust and supports the long-term fiscal health of our local governments. Through organizations like the Georgia Government Finance Officers Association, these professionals continue to advance excellence in public financing through education, leadership, and service. Tonight, we are proud to recognize and thank the government finance professionals who serve the city of Roswell and communities across Georgia for their dedication and impact. You want to speak?
Sure.
Speech.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Certainly appreciative of the acknowledgement and recognition, and a big thanks to all the folks who show up in finance every single day to keep the city running. So thank you again.
Thank you. Next is probably the thing that's going to be the most exciting hope for the night. We would like to welcome a group of students from Crabapple Middle School who will give a presentation in support of a skate park in the city of Roswell. So welcome, and please come forward. Face us and speak into the mic. They will hear you, and you are being recorded and live streamed. No pressure. Well, I just warn you, just, you know.
All right. Hello, City Council members. My name is Kyle Jean-Baptiste, and I want to tell you a short story. One time, I was skating with a few friends at Roswell Area Park after school. I rolled down a massive hill towards the playground and stopped just before the entrance. Right before you walk in, there's what looks like a mellow concrete bank. Little did I know, that hill was like a viper hiding beneath a lily pad, waiting to strike at an unsuspecting rabbit stopping for a sip of water. I cruised down the bank without a second thought until I saw it. A small crack. It isn't looking, but a skater's ticket straight to the ER. I tried to hop off at the last second, but it still sent me flying. For a moment, I soared like a butterfly, fully aware that a hungry cat would be waiting when it reached the ground. When I landed, a sickening, deafening crack ripped through the air like a musket firing. I couldn't feel anything at first, but I would soon learn that I had fractured my elbow. Within minutes, it swelled up like a hot air balloon in the middle of July. This injury is why the people of Roswell Area Park need a safe place to skate.
There are 3 reasons why we should build a skate park in Roswell: community, safety, and proximity.
Hello? Hello, I'm Phineas Liang, and I'd like to share a short story with you. One weekend, my mother could not take me to the skate park, so I decided to skate along Woodstock Road to get from one side to the other. As I was crossing, I saw the light turn green, and I noticed a white car beginning to make its turn. I assumed the driver would stop, but instead, he came within 2 feet of hitting me. Whether he didn't see me or he wasn't paying attention, it was a frightening moment. This experience made me realize how unsafe it is to skate in Roswell without a designated place to go. Reason 1, safety. A new skate park provides a controlled environment. It eliminates accidents between cars and pedestrians, and it encourages supervision and a well-lit area.
Hello, I'm MJ Gold, and one afternoon, I was nearly run over by a car simply because I don't have a safe place to skate. I was trying to enter the plaza near Target when a car suddenly turned right and slammed on the brakes just a few feet from me. The driver rolled down his window and started yelling, "Watch where you're going, knucklehead, go skate somewhere else." But the truth is, there is nowhere else for me to skate safely. Moments like this aren't just frustrating, they're dangerous. Skaters in our community are left choosing between risking injury on busy streets or being yelled at and pushed away from public places. The situation got so out of hand that the man even called the police and complained I was trespassing when I was simply trying to get through the plaza. No one should have to face that just to enjoy their sport. We need a safe, designated place to skate, somewhere that keeps both skaters and drivers out of harm's way.
Reason number 2, stronger communities. A skate park would provide a place where people of all backgrounds can socialize and congregate. It would also help kids become more excited about living in Roswell. And also, since you adults always say that we should be offline, since we're always on our phones, this would give us a great reason to go out and socialize instead of scrolling.
Okay, I'm gonna, not to disrupt the flow, but the young man who just spoke, could you tell us your name? I apologize if I didn't catch it.
My name is Kyle Jean-Baptiste.
Okay, thank you.
These are the places we skate, but they're 30 minutes away, and we need our parents to drive us. A closer location means kids in Roswell can walk to the skate park without inconveniencing our parents.
Potential locations. The old Crabapple Middle School venue. I know there's already plans to demolish it, so it'd be a great way to use the space by putting a skate park there. And also, Roswell Area Park also already has many open spaces, so a skate park would complement it even more and make it an even bigger hub for Roswell citizens.
We asked a large number of middle school parents on their thoughts and opinions about a skate park in Roswell, and all of them said yes to it. Some responses from them was, "This is a great idea to spend more time outdoors. There aren't enough local places to skate or skateboard." And one person believes a skate park allows children to socialize and get physical activity.
Thank you to all our city council members for listening to us, and we hope that you sincerely consider our proposition for a skate park in Roswell.
Thank you for your time.
So, young man, would you be okay with the mayor and council comes down and gets some pictures with you and others who would like to support a skate park? Next on the mayor's agenda, I would like to invite Fulton County Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Pamela Rochelle, to come forward and make an announcement on the opening of the Fulton County Health and Human Services North Facility. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Robichaux and members of the council. Again, I am Pamela Rochelle, Chief Operating Officer for Fulton County. Thank you for this opportunity to share the details of a new Health and Human Services campus that will be located at 4700 North Point Parkway, and our goal is to provide health and human services to the citizens of North Fulton. Next slide, please. In 2019, the county will invest $15 million to rehab our facility, which is over 100,000 square feet. We purchased the facility in 2019, and we then moved into using the facility for COVID outreach and vaccinations. Since that time, we have repositioned ourselves back to the original mission, which is health and human services in North Fulton, and I will quickly review all of the services that will be provided there. Under one roof, we will have behavioral health services for children and adults, a developmental disabilities training center. We will have senior services, a Fulton County Board of Health, customer service, and recovery treatment court. Next slide. Just to be clear about what this facility is and isn't, it is really a facility that will provide outpatient behavioral health and substance abuse services, again, IDD training and support, senior wellness and caregiver resources, preventative health and screenings, customer service and county navigation of programs, court-supervised treatment, and vital records. We often get questions about other components that many in the community think that this facility is, and so today I want to share what the facility is not. It is not a homeless shelter or any sort of housing facility. It is not an acute care hospital or emergency medical facility. It is not a crisis walk-in or emergency room or a public safety operation or any sort of inpatient treatment. It is a suite of health and human services, and just a bit more detail about what those services are. So first, behavioral health and developmental disabilities. Again, we will provide outpatient or group therapy for adults and children, and we will have an intellectual and developmental disabilities training center on site, providing a host of training services and other support services. We will also have opioid treatment support groups as well. For any individual in the community that is interested in this or any of these types of services, you can call us at 404-612-6520 for behavioral health. And if you're interested in enrolling in our Developmental Disabilities Training Center, 404-612-8400. Next slide, please. New to Fulton, North Fulton, especially this far north at 4700 North Point Parkway, we will have a neighborhood senior center providing a host of classes, everything from art to dance to nutrition classes. We will also serve lunch daily, and we will have an adult day health center. We know that many individuals in the community have adults that they're caring for at home and can either use respite or need some assistance while they're working or handling other business. And so we will have a brand new neighborhood senior center as well as adult day services. Transportation will also be provided. To enroll in these services, the number is 404-613-6000. The next service is Board of Health. This service will relocate from Royal Drive and will contain all of the services that are currently offered there. I'm really excited to share that we will have a brand-new vital records offering. So you no longer will have to go downtown to 141 Pryor Street for vital records. You will have a full-service vital records offering further south, located at 4700 North Point Parkway. This service will also include a travel clinic as well as all of the other services that have previously been offered. And for any individuals or groups opening restaurants, we will also have an environmental health and inspections unit right at this facility. Next slide, please. For any individuals that have had the unfortunate experience of a DUI and have opted to receive treatment and service versus some other type of sentencing, we will have this alternative sentencing program offered at 4700 North Point Parkway. This includes group therapy, substance use testing, and other services. At this facility, we will also include early voting. So early voting will be an offering at 4700 North Point Parkway. Early voting will begin April 26th for the May 19th primary and October 12th for the November 3rd general election. Finally, we will have customer service navigation. So for any of your constituents that may have questions about any of the services offered at 4700 or anywhere in Fulton County, they will have an on-site customer service person there to assist at the facility or with any other questions, but you certainly can call today at 404-612-4000. So Mayor, that concludes my update, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Does council have any questions? I just want to say thank you for bringing those services closer to us up here in North Fulton. Very much needed and appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
So next is an addition to the agenda. It's an acknowledgement of National Vietnam War Veterans Day. So we are going to take a moment to recognize National Vietnam War Veterans Day, which will be observed on Sunday, March 29th. This day honors the courage, sacrifice, and service of the men and women who served during the Vietnam War, a time when many returned home without the recognition they deserved. We are grateful for their dedication to our country, and we would like to ask Roswell resident Janet Russell to step forward and make that acknowledgement.
I hope you can hear me. My head is clogged with pollen. The good news is we don't have to shovel pollen. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that this Sunday was Vietnam War Veterans Day. I did troop flights in Vietnam in 1968, 69, up to 70, from Travis Air Force Base to Saigon, Da Nang, and Cam Ranh Bay as a civilian. And I want to tell you just a couple of things. I've been told to keep it short. The war lasted 10 years. It was on TV every single night for 10 years. We did not have internet or cell phones. We had the television. But I wanted to tell you that home is a very powerful word. Think about it, home. Home sweet home, be it ever so humble. There's no place like home. Sweet home, Alabama, America the beautiful, land of the free, home of the brave. But nobody welcomed the Vietnam veteran home. Nobody. They had garbage thrown at them. They were called baby killers. They were ordered by their executive officers to discard their uniforms and wear civilian clothes when they were on civilian planes after they arrived at the Air Force Base. They were also ordered to never discuss the war when they came home, ever, and they followed orders. So here is a few statistics I think people need to understand about this war. It lasted from 1965 to 73, and 2.7 million men of my generation served in that war. The average age was 19. Think about that, because we had the draft. Ask the old guy today wearing his Vietnam vet cap if he remembers what he had for breakfast, and he'll say no, but he can tell you his lottery number. In April of '69, the peak amount of troops was the highest at 543,482. 61% killed in action were 21 or younger. 58,220 men of my generation died. 303,678 were wounded. 1,600 are still MIA. 500,000 died from Agent Orange, are in the process of dying from Agent Orange, the gift that keeps on giving, because they were lied to by Monsanto and told that it wouldn't hurt them. There were 7,484 women, and 83.5% were nurses. None of them were welcomed home. But statistics are numbers, but they're also faces. And that's why we built the Faces of War Memorial that's on the backside of this building. It was not built by the city, it was built with private donations. The city gave us the little piece of land it sits on because it was the flattest space on the property, and you know we have to be billy goats to live in Roswell, because everything is a hill. If you notice when you walk there, there are names on the bricks. Those are people who donated. The 6 men, I think there were 6, who were the guys on the committee, their names are in the front. One was a double amputee, one was a city attorney, another one was a Delta pilot. None of them had offices. My office was down the street, so we didn't have GoFundMe back then. We had stuffed envelopes that we asked for money. The memorial is not about the war. We decided it was about the people who were in it and the people who waited at home. There are 50 faces on it. You can't see all of them because some of them are underneath the cornice. We ran out of money. The water represents the tears that were shed in that war. We all cried all the time. At about 1 o'clock on the face, you will see a blank face. That is for your face to shine through the tears, because we all know someone who was in that war, your grandfather, your uncle, your brother's cousin, whatever. I can assure you, they all came home screwed up. The Vietnam War is the unhealed wound in this collective psyche of my generation. Interestingly enough, we had a national competition for the design of that war memorial, anonymous submissions, and fairly and squarely anonymously 2 sculptors from Roswell won it. Tina Stern and Don Hagen, and their studio was down in the mill when it was a set of studios. I remind you that the city did not build it, but they did try to move it a few years ago, and I made a promise if they ever tried to move it, I would make the city a national embarrassment, and I keep my promises, unlike the city. If you ever see an old guy at Trader Joe's or a soccer game and he's got his Vietnam vet cap on, don't be embarrassed. Walk up to him and say, "Welcome home." They'll either go, "eh," or they'll cry. The water is the tears. And I want to just tell you one more quick story. We used to have a 9/11 ceremony here, and then they moved it over to the lake by the park. And little kids from East Roswell came over to sing some patriotic songs, and when it was over, I told the teacher, "Would you like me to explain to the children about the memorial?" And she was one of those fantastically, "Yes, let's do it." So she stopped the school bus, and the kids all came back, and I didn't go into the politics of the war, because we were all lied to about the war. It was unwinnable. But I told them about the faces and the sculptures, and the war memorial actually was a reflection of the children, in my opinion, because here were all these faces, black faces, white faces, Vietnamese mother with a baby's face, nurses, doctors. And so were the children. It's our beautiful community of all these faces. So I told them about it, and I said, the guys were never welcomed home. Will you promise me that if you ever see an old grandpa at a soccer game or anything, will you just walk up and say, "Welcome home"? And they went, you know how kids are, they're so cute. And I said, "Okay, it's a promise." They said, "Yes, ma'am." So the teacher said, "We have to go now." And there was a tall man standing behind them, old fatigues on, and I said, "Sir, would you like me to explain to you about the memorial?" And he goes, "No, that's me. I was the model for the sculpture." And I completely flipped, and I went, "Oh my God, kids, come back." And the teacher said, yes, come back." So he told them about his time in Vietnam. He had 2 Purple Hearts. He showed them where his bullets had gone through his legs. They weren't scared or anything. And they listened, and the teacher said, finally, we have to go now. The school bus is ready for us. So they all turned around and got in line and walked up to him and said, welcome home. Because they had promised me they would say welcome home anytime they met a Vietnam veteran. So if you don't think that's impactful, I don't know what is. So I just remind you that this Sunday is Vietnam War Veterans Day. And I suggest that you find some old guy and tell him welcome home and thanks a lot, because nobody else did. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Russell, for reminding us the sacrifices people have made for this country. Next is the consent agenda. City Clerk Nancy Long, are there any speakers for the consent agenda?
Real quick, hold on. I would like to pull item number 3 off consent agenda, approval to award Big Creek Trail Design to Kimley Horn, as they are a client of mine and I need to recuse myself for the item. I'll do a line. Pull it off, and then which one are you doing first?
Are we pulling it?
It's up to you. Did you want to do the recusal item first or the consent item first?
Why don't we do the consent item? We'll do the consent item. So we'll do the items number 1 and 2 of the consent agenda first. Then Councilmember Beeson will recuse herself. We'll do then the consent of item number 3, as there is conflicts there. So on items number 1 and 2, are there speakers? City.
I have one speaker, Jason Yao.
Oh, for 3? Okay. Is there any speakers for items number 1 and 2? Does council have any comments regarding items number 1 and 2 of the consent agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilwoman Hall. Do I have a second? Second. Councilmember Zach. All in favor, please raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Councilmember Beeson. So I believe we have a speaker who would like to speak on item number 3 of the consent agenda.
It's $1 million. Is it a concept plan or are these construction plans? Because that's a lot of money for basically a trail. It's either going to be concrete or it's going to be a boardwalk. And that's just, it's a little confusing in the way this thing is written up, because some places it sounds like it's a full design contract. In some places it sounds like it's a concept contract. But there's a concept plan that's attached. What more concept do you need? It would seem that all you really got to do is walk through there with a bunch of stakes and a hammer, and you've pretty much planned it out. It's following the creek. If it's not federal jurisdiction, you have a lot more leeway in terms of environmental review. It's not like you're in the river corridor here, and you have to deal with the Army Corps of Engineers. I just, over $1 million to design a trail through the woods that follows a creek. Wow. Do we have a lot of bridges that need to be engineered over the creek because it goes back and forth over the creek? I I just don't understand it. And it's so broadly written that it isn't even clear that survey work is involved. There's some places where it sounds like, oh, no, we're everything but survey work. That's all there is to this is survey work. Basically, the surveyor go behind the guy who goes and sets the stakes and goes, this is the path. Because it's not a path you can design in an office. It's a path you design in the field, and then you have the surveyors come back and make it a plan. I just, $1 million for concept design for a trail that follows a creek. I mean, for $1 million, it ought to be design, construct, the whole thing for $1 million. I just don't get it. Mystifying to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Does council have any questions or comments? Do I have a motion to approve item number 3 on the consent agenda? Councilmember Sells, do I have a second? Councilmember Hall, all in favor, raise your hand. It passes unanimously with Councilmember Beeson going for recusal. He's coming back. Next is the regular agenda. City Clerk Long, please read the first item on the regular agenda.
Yes, this item is recommendation to convert the 6 pickleball courts at Crabapple Center into 2 tennis courts, presented by Stephen Malone, Director of Recreation Parks.
Mr. Malone, would you like to come forward and present?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This next item is regarding the racket courts at the Crabapple Center. In October of 2025, Mayor and Council approved converting 2 of the tennis courts on site at Crabapple into 6 pickleball courts. Construction began in December of 2025, and during construction, nearby residents raised concerns primarily about the noise, along with quality of life and potential impacts to property values. The city held a public listening session on March 11th to hear directly from the community. While there's a strong and growing demand for pickleball across Roswell, the location of these courts, specifically their proximity to homes, has become a significant concern. Based on this feedback, staff is recommending converting the 6 pickleball courts back to tennis courts. We recognize the continued growth in pickleball and will continue exploring upcoming opportunities to expand pickleball access across Roswell in more appropriate locations. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions from council? Councilmember Beeson.
Not a question, but just wanted to acknowledge that we had a listening session with the neighborhood 2 weeks ago and received a lot of feedback from the community, which we appreciate folks taking the time and their evening to come share their thoughts with us, and that was taken into consideration. Thank you.
Councilmember Hall.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what the cost is to convert these. They're ready for pickleball, correct?
That is correct. So the restriping back from pickleball to tennis courts would be $17,900.
Thank you.
Any other council member? Councilmember Philippi?
And can you remind us of what the costs were to put up the recommended sound mitigation for if the pickleball courts were to remain there?
Yes, ma'am. So the original construction price was $207,000, which included sound mitigation material on the northern fence line closest to the property lines. The enhanced sound mitigations that were proposed, which would have included expanding that sound material and landscaping, would have been $70,000. $52,000 for the additional sound mitigation material, and $18,000 for the landscape.
And that's the 70,000 has not been spent yet.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Councilmember Sells?
So has the 200 been spent already?
Yes, sir. $207,000 is the project scope as we sit today.
And that included the sound mitigation?
That included the north side fence line for sound mitigation. Yes, sir.
Okay. And just there is a lot of demand for pickleball. We've talked about that a number of times. I've certainly gotten numerous emails about this, as I'm sure others have as well. What is the plan B for expanding pickleball? Do you have any thoughts on that at this time, and how long that will be?
We do have some ideas. I think it'll be more visible after tomorrow's committee meeting. We do have an agenda item that's coming tomorrow related to the Hembry Park design. I think there's some great opportunities as we look ahead at the design of Hembry Park and what that could entail as far as expanding pickleball options.
And you're most optimistic, when would that be, that we would see those pickleball courts?
Construction for Hembry Park would likely not start for at least another year and a half, 2 years.
Unfortunately, I had a commitment the night of the open mic, or excuse me, the listening session. Did you discuss the efficacy of the sound mitigation that was proposed, and what was your takeaway from the response from the neighbors and as well as the other interested parties that were there that night?
We did not really go into a lot of detail regarding the specifics of the sound mitigation options that night specifically. I would say that the concerns are still there that would the sound mitigations actually rectify the noise itself, being that it is somewhat of a new product that we have not experienced or tested specifically in Roswell before.
So you're comfortable with this decision then, I suppose, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Any other comments or questions? City Clerk Long, are there any speakers for this item?
Yes, there are two speakers. The first is Teresa Lynn.
Hello, everyone. I'm Teresa Lynn, and I live at 330 Shelley Lane in the Roswell Place neighborhood. I am the owner of one of the receiving properties for this project. My home sits 114 feet from the courts. Thank you for reconsidering the courts and writing this proposal. Mayor and Council, thank you for considering it. We are here because of pickleball noise. I first want to thank Councilwoman Philippi and Brumley who visited the courts. That is what good governance is, and we appreciate it. Councilman Zach and Councilwoman Beeson, thank you for the time that you spent with me speaking about this issue. To the mayor who met with us in your first week in office, while everyone in Roswell must have seemed at your doorstep, you gave us some time. Thank you. To Councilman Sells, in a conversation we had, you mentioned that you thoroughly understand the issue. I appreciate your consideration. And to Councilwoman Hall, thank you for attending the listening session and hearing our side. We are here because, as many of you know, there is an ongoing problem with pickleball noise. It is a problem at the Grimes Bridge Park, as we heard in the listening session from some of our neighbors there. But it is not just a problem in Roswell. It is a problem all across America. Municipalities and HOAs are dealing with this issue. Neighbors in Alpharetta, in the Abbey Glen neighborhood, recently testified to their city council that they hear the sound of pickleball noise in their homes, and they have taken to wearing headphones inside their homes to drown out the noise. Sadly, one family in that neighborhood living at 170 feet from the courts said that their baby cannot sleep in the nursery that they provided for the baby because of the intrusive and piercing noise of pickleball. They also said when the courts were tennis courts, they never had a problem. They lived there for over a decade. When pickleball came, that's when the problem started. This is because of the specific sound profile created by a paddle striking a plastic ball. It produces a high-pitched, intermittent, impulsive sound, and it is particularly annoying to hear. People living near pickleball courts report developing stress-related illnesses and depression. They also report developing neurological issues. A Dr. Kathleen Ramito she is a retired family physician in Boise, Idaho. She has documented many such cases of people who live too close to pickleball courts. We could expect these pickleball courts at Crabapple Center to have been used from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and I have been warned by staff members, excuse me, that play might begin at sunrise. I estimate on 6 fully utilized courts, that might be 80,000 popping sounds per day. The sound mitigation that we talked about, as was just mentioned, is no guarantee. I visited the Marcus Jewish Community Center in Dunwoody, and I stood 100 feet from courts similar in size to the courts that have been proposed here. They have a full covering over the top, and all walls are covered with a similar material. You can still hear pickleball noise inside the home that sits 100 feet from those courts. That is with the fullest of mitigation available today. Roswell Place is a neighborhood that has community. In the listening session that you hosted last week, you saw over 60 of my neighbors come out against these courts. You heard some of my neighbors talk about how we greet each other in the street and we support each other when we're in need. I don't expect that all of my neighbors will stay if these courts are allowed to hold pickleball on them in the amount of play that we've discussed. So I ask you for 3 things going forward. Please approve this proposal. Please also rewrite the noise ordinance specific to pickleball. That is being done in many cities. In fact, it was just approved in the town of Brazelton, and it is being considered in Alpharetta. They will vote on that next week. Last, I ask that you create setbacks for pickleball courts from homes. Mayor and council, please do this to protect everyone and allow recreation in Roswell to continue to build community and not break it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lynn. Next speaker.
Yes, the next speaker is Susan Rumble.
Are there any other speakers for this item? Does council have any other comments? Councilmember Hall.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions for Stephen. We had the discussions about the tennis courts, and so will they be lighted, and will we be able to program them as part of our programming?
Currently, there are no plans to add lights to those courts at this moment in time, and due to no lights and no restrooms, we would be unable to program them for Alta use per the parameters of Alta.
So basically, it's a dead asset, no programming for the city.
It would be open tennis play for anyone that wanted to use the courts for such.
Anybody that. Thank you. That's my questions. I just have comments. So the city purchased Crabapple Middle School as an asset for the city. We're about $12 million into this property. We purchased it for $6.5 million. And we didn't take that policy decision lightly. We made that policy decision based on the needs and wants of 90,000 plus residents, of programming that we need, its adjacency to the Roswell Area Park. And when we did the due diligence, we looked at every square inch of that property. And as good stewards of the residents and the taxpayers' investment and money, we looked at how we could maximize and every square inch of whether it's the building, the property, the lot, how can we make this the best benefit for the residents, all the residents of Roswell. That property was built, I did a little research in 1983, and Roswell Place, lovely community, was built next to that property in the 90s, many of the homes in the early to late 90s. And actually the 2 homes that are have been very vocal about the courts, transacted in the last 2 or 3 years. So those properties, actually, even the ones prior to that, purchased next to a school and next to a park. So being good stewards of the taxpayers as a whole and looking at this $12 million commitment, I cannot justify investing another 20 grand, 17.9, into something that would be a dead asset. We don't prohibit pickleball in any of our zoning. Residents in single-family homes have pickleball courts in their backyards. So this is not something that is banned in our city. We haven't had calls since I've been on council for 6 years for more tennis courts. We've had more calls from our residents to the tunes of hundreds and emails for more pickleball courts. And this is what staff informed us, and this was the policy decision that was made. The staff has bent over backwards to accommodate and mitigate any noise that potentially will come to these homes. We have invested in sound mitigation that is new, that is untested. We haven't tried it yet. I think that we demonstrated that we will continue to work with homeowners on this. There's additional sound mitigation that we could do. You can say the and/or argument, well, if we do this now, we're just investing $20,000 versus a net $50,000 more later down the line. But we don't even know if this is going to be an issue. But what we do know is that we can program these courts. We've spent the money on behalf of the Roswell taxpayers and put a program in. We can talk about limiting times of play. There are no lights on the court. So this was a school. There were suggestions to operate the courts during what would be traditional school hours, because that's what a resident that purchased next to a school could expect. So there's ways to be able to accommodate the people that have concerns. This community has pickleball courts in their neighborhood. We're keeping pickleball courts away from folks that don't have them in their neighborhoods. And I don't think that's equitable. And I don't think it's a good use of taxpayer dollars to not program them. I think there's opportunities to look at expanding pickleball in our city, as was suggested. If there are funds available and opportunities to make a pickleball complex, to make it indoor in some way or fashion, that we can look at all those things. But I in good conscience, in good governance, cannot support this, because I support, and I'm talking about 90,000 people. And that is why I can't support not programming them as we had intended. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah.
Councilmember Philippi?
So I would just like to respond in response to some of those things. I've spent a lot of time with these homeowners and have discussed many of these issues with them. They were well aware of buying their home near a school and near a park, and they have thoroughly enjoyed being next to a home, next to a park, and hearing the sound of children playing and laughing. What they did not sign up for is the intermittent high decibel noise that comes along with pickleball. Pickleball in single-family neighborhoods are not utilized at the level, the rate, and the amount of people that you're talking about for a public space with 6 different courts. That is constant noise all day, not the few people that come out and play in their neighborhood periodically. We already know that the current sound mitigation will not work. All of the studies, all of the research prove this without a doubt. While the decision to purchase this school might have been done with due diligence. The decision to put the pickleball courts in this location were not. There are not 90,000 people in this city that are playing pickleball, and their use would be at a moment in time and for their enjoyment, the ones who do play. These people would have to deal with that noise constantly every single day. It is not something that we need to be dealing with constantly and for the rest of our terms. Thank you.
Any other? Councilmember South?
I'd like to redirect a little bit, so to you, Stephen. You know, look, I understand sunk cost. We have $200,000 that is a dead asset. I completely understand that. Explain to me why we can't simply take up the nets, pull down the fence, and leave it, because there's nobody clamoring for us to spend $17,000 or $18,000 to put in tennis courts. So to me, the better course would just simply leave it fallow, and we'll see what happens, you know, with the property over the coming years as we continue to program it. That would be my wish. It seems like a complete and total waste of time and, frankly, a fig leaf of a stupidity that we should just spend that money to do that. How do you feel about that?
I would say, sir, that's definitely an option that's on the table as well.
Thank you. Well, perhaps I should throw that to you, Mary, and perhaps we can amend this resolution to say that we'll just leave it fallow. And what can you be specific about what would need to be done to make sure that people couldn't play pickleball there? A machine gun nest or what? I'm not sure.
I could definitely ensure that we would not be using it for pickleball. Yes, sir. I think we can do that at a very minimal cost related to taking the fences down. There's no netting there now. We'd have to be very cautious of the individuals that may decide to come and just take advantage. So we'd have to figure out something with the striping on the courts.
Yeah, well, I think that would just, for the moment, I mean, I know we have other plans for that property that may disturb that ground in some way. There's a possibility. I think that if council is good with that, it'd be better just to leave it fallow. Does anybody have a problem with that?
So, Councilmember Brumley?
I would not like to leave it fallow. I mean, maybe, you know, some people will play tennis while they're waiting for their kids, you know, little kids.
Councilmember Philippi? Sorry, let Councilmember Brumley finish, please.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's just, this cost doesn't seem like a lot, and then people can start at least using them, and then we can see, you know, at least it wouldn't be completely dead. It would be somebody, you know, kids can use it while their parents, or sorry, the parents can use it while their kids are inside the center. Just, you know, just leaving it just abandoned, it doesn't even look good to the city. So, you know, it would look like we're literally abandoning and burning money instead of using it at least for something.
Any other comments? Councilmember Sells?
Perhaps we can square a circle with some ramps on the piece, because we're talking about a piece of concrete that you know, if we're going to spend 17 grand on it, I'd rather do that than do something that nobody's going to use. Can I get an amen back from the Baptist in the back?
I just, sorry.
Councilmember Brumley?
Sorry, I'm not ready to make a motion to convert it into something else at the moment. I'm sure, you know, it would be too fast to do this, and, you know, pickleball skate parks also have pros and cons, so.
So what are you saying? I'm not sure.
Councilmember Sells?
I don't understand the comment. I asked for what comment was.
Oh, no, forget it.
Any other comments?
Yeah.
Did you?
So all I'm saying is that we can leave it as a piece of concrete, okay, for the moment, and then we can do something else with it. But to spend more money on something, what was it before? What was it before?
Tennis courts.
And were they used before?
No, but they were in disrepair as well, so.
Yeah, they were in disrepair because nobody used them for years. I mean, that's sort of the whole point. So I would say, you know, a flat surface of concrete is not an eyesore, and it certainly would save us 17, 18 grand, and we can do something different later.
Councilmember Beeson?
I'm amenable to Councilmember Sells' proposal to use your words, leave it fallow. In other words, to deprogram it as pickleball courts, but not necessarily reinstall or use the $17,900 investment to restripe them as tennis courts, with the understanding that they wouldn't be fully programmable or fully utilized to the best of their potential. I'll go ahead and own the vote, and I will call it a mistake in terms of the original vote of us trying to take advantage of an opportunity at the time because we had to have high demand. We still have high demand for pickleball. But I think from our perspective, we saw it as solving an issue for the neighborhood and the city of making sure that we are alleviating concerns related to pickleball without maybe going as far as we needed to make sure that we socialized it with the community first and got everyone's feedback, just to make sure at this point in time that I think this is the best and highest use of our funds. I agree with Councilmember Sells of leaving it be until we have a more collaborative approach to how to address how that will be programmed.
So Councilmember Sells, would you like to propose an amendment to the
Do a little
agenda
governance
item?
right here.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Brumley?
So we're saying we're, oops, sorry, gonna remove the fences and just leave the concrete out?
But
Because it could get damaged. I mean, kids will start using it for skate park. Just,
It's a park.
so what would be the plan?
No plan now. Give us time to.
My recommendation, based on limiting resources and impact, would be to probably leave the fence there and keep it chained and keep it locked and unutilized until we figure out a permanent solution for that space.
There's a $2 answer. There's a $2 answer. It's called a padlock.
Correct.
So would you like a motion? Is that what you're asking for?
Hold on one second. Anyone else want to make a comment? Yeah, okay. Councilmember Sells, would you like to make a
This isn't, David, this isn't really written as a resolution, so what would you like me to do?
If you make a motion and it passes, that works as a resolution.
Okay. So I make a motion that the pickleball courts be decommissioned and left fallow, my word, as is, until further decision is reached by the council.
Do I have a second? Councilmember Philippi? All in favor, please raise your hand. 4. All opposed, raise your hand. 1 opposed? Oh, I'm sorry, you're voting for. Oh, 4, I didn't see your hand, I'm sorry. So 5 approved, 1 opposed, so the motion passes as stated. City Clerk Long, please read the second item on the regular agenda.
Yes, Mayor, this is approval to enter into a new agreement with BRINC and Motorola Solutions for a trial drone as first responder initiative takeoff program.
And this item is being deferred to a future mayor and council meeting at this time. City Clerk Long, please read the third.
David, we don't need to vote on that.
I thought,
Sorry, we're deferring the Motorola vote, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I thought that's what.
No, you did right. He was trying to talk, I'm sorry.
City Clerk Long, please read the third item on the regular agenda.
Yes, this is approval to award the 2026 citywide resurfacing contract to Baldwin Paving Company, Inc. for $5,241,853.23 with an amount not to exceed $6,044,408. This will be presented by Andy Flaggar, Director of Transportation.
Good evening, Andy.
Thank you.
Floor is yours.
I'm not going to reread what she just read. So on February 10th, we put out for bid the 2026 citywide resurfacing contract. Baldwin Paving Company Incorporated was the low-cost, responsible bidder. This will cover 46 roads, about 14.2 miles of roadway, and resurface some needed improvements in 3 parks.
Thank you. Does anyone on council member have a question? City Clerk Long, are there any speakers to this item?
There are no speakers for this item.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Zach.
Hey, hopefully you can hear me. Just want to make comment that as we go through this program, as best we can, and we've kind of talked about this, is that we're communicating timelines of what's getting paved and when way ahead of the time with some of the tools we talked about. Only comment, so thank you.
We will be doing that, putting signs out ahead of the construction schedule so people know what's coming.
Any other comments? Yes, Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Andy. Just a question. So this is, when will this paving be done? In calendar year 26?
Yes, based on what we learned last year, this contract has liquidated damages if they do not start work within 30 days of us noticing notice to proceed, and they will be fined significantly if they do not finish all roads on the list within 120 days of start.
Thank you. And I actually had another reason for asking that, because Riverside Road, if you look at the south side, Riverside going west to Highway 9, that's scheduled to be done in 27, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's going to be beautiful along the river. I mean, 2 brand-new roads back to back.
Yes.
I mean, one year, you're not going to be able to tell them apart.
Correct.
Exciting. Thank you. Especially
Councilmember
for
Sell.
the cyclists. I'm sorry. It's just the cyclists will be very excited.
Councilmember Sells.
You have a moment here. I'd love to pump the website. I assume this will be on the City Projects and Private Development's website. Does that happen before the yellow signs go up or simultaneous with the yellow signs that these go on there?
I'm not sure. We can make sure it's in both places.
Yeah, well.
So as soon as we get a schedule from the contractor, what's the order they're going to hit it in? Canton Road's first, or Canton Street's first.
Right.
Once we have the order, we can put it out for people. So they expect it kind of to happen like this, with signs in the field, the 2-3 weeks out that we're coming. We'll be in your neighborhood soon. We'll be on your street soon.
Well, I just would pump this to anybody who's looking to see what's going on in the city in terms of projects. This has been a great addition. Thank you to those who did it. Very, very good stuff. So you can always point to that.
Any other comments? Do I have a motion? Councilmember Sells. Do I have a second? Councilmember Philippi. All in favor, please raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you. City Clerk Long, please read the 4th item on the regular agenda.
Yes, this is approval of a contract amendment for winter construction for the completion of the Green Street Mobility Project in the amount of $3,110,452.29 with a budget authorization of $3,450,000.
This is Winter Construction is the company that is completing the parking deck as we speak. We have added on to them to add a multi-use trail, 8 to 10 feet from Green Street to Cherry Way. We will be converting Plum Street to a pedestrian-only path, and the existing aerial utilities will be relocated underground. To expedite the construction, we made an amendment with Winter Construction because they're already on site and you get started with this work immediately.
Thank you. City Clerk Long, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak?
We have one speaker, Jason Yao.
Wow, let's spin the money wheel. I've driven by there pretty recently, and substantial amount of work has already been done. The curbing is there. So really what we're talking about is multi-purpose path, a little bit of repaving, and burying the power lines for $3 million plus. I think, you know, contractors come to the city and they just look at this city as being a sucker. This is an insane amount of money for a few hundred feet of road and sidewalk. Basically, that's what this is. Over $3 million. And they're already there, and they've already done a substantial amount of the work already, which I guess was in the original contract. I just don't see the $3 million that's justified in this. It's inconceivable. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any council member comments? Councilmember Beeson?
This is a question for Mr. Fleegar. Have the Plumtree business owners been notified of this change for the conversion to pedestrian-only street?
Yes, they are aware of the project.
Okay, so they've already been notified. And then roughly speaking, you probably wouldn't be able to give me the dollar amount off the top of your head. My understanding is the financial burden of this project, or most of the cost, really comes from the bearing of the utility lines. Is that correct?
Might need help from Mr. Watson, but yes, there would be a large cost for burying the utilities. That is not inexpensive, and then the right-of-way acquisition along the properties that we need to do work in.
Got it. Thank you.
Anyone else have comment? Do I have a motion? Councilmember Sells. Do I have a second? Councilmember Philippi. All in favor, please raise your hand. Passes unanimously. City Clerk Long, please read the fifth item on the regular agenda.
Approval of a text amendment to the Unified Development Code, Article 14, Definitions, Section 14.2, Defined Terms. This will be the second reading, presented by Jeannie Payton, Planning and Zoning Director.
City Attorney David Davidson, please read the ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 14 of the Unified Development Code of the City of Roswell regarding defined terms. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell, pursuant to their authority, do hereby adopt the following amendment. Chapter 14, Definitions of the Unified Development Code of the City of Roswell, Georgia, is hereby amended by modifying Section 14.2, Defined Terms, which shall read as follows, text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this is the second reading.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is the second reading of the text amendment where we're defining computer or data processing. We took this item to the Planning Commission in a public hearing on February 17th. They voted to strike the language we took to them and add the language here. I could read it if you would like, but this is the second second time it's coming before you, and staff recommends approval as the Planning Commission.
I am going to ask you to go back just for those who are online, if you could read it just in case.
So the proposed text amendment, it would be to add a definition for computer or data processing that states facilities where electronic data is processed by employees, including without limitation, data entry, storage, conversion or analysis, subscription or credit card transaction processing, telephone sales, order collection, mail order and catalog sales, and mailing list preparation, but shall not include any building, structure, or facility, or any portion or complex of the foregoing, in which any substantial floor area is devoted to operating data processing or computing equipment for commercial computer applications or services, such as developing, running, delivering, or transmitting computer applications or services, or for storing and managing the data associated with such services. By the way of example and not of limitation, such computer applications or services described herein may be related to cryptocurrency mining, data mining, cloud computing and storage, and artificial intelligence. No problem. Any questions?
Any questions from council? City Clerk Long, are there any speakers?
There are no public speakers.
Do I hear a motion? Councilmember Zach, do I have a second? Councilmember Brumley, all in favor, please raise your hand. 5, oh, okay, you did? Okay. It passes unanimously. Just wondering. City Clerk Long, please read the last item on the regular agenda.
Approval of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell, Georgia by amending Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2.5, Code of Ethics, to provide for penalties, to provide for codification, to provide for severability, to repeal conflicting ordinances, to provide an effective date, and for other purposes. This is the second reading, presented by Joseph Cusack, Assistant City Attorney.
City Attorney David Davidson, please read the ordinance.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell, Georgia by amending Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2.5, Code of Ethics, to provide for penalties, to provide for codification, to provide for severability, to repeal conflicting ordinances, to provide an effective date, and for other purposes. Now therefore, the Council of the City of Roswell, Georgia hereby ordains that the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2.5, Code of Ethics is hereby repealed in its entirety and replaced to read as follows, text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this is the second reading.
Good evening, everyone. I have the second reading of the new ethics ordinance, which will replace our current ethics ordinance. I just want to, before I go into a summary or a brief summary, because I know we've been over this in committee and at the first reading, but I just want to draw your attention to packet page 128. It's page 9 out of 11 for the only change that was made from the first reading to the second reading, and that is in section E2, which added the sentence, in the second sentence, is that if a complaint is deemed to be frivolous by the hearing officer shall recommend the complainant be subject to reimburse the respondent for any reasonable attorney's fees incurred with the defense of the complaint. And what this clause is trying to do is really disincentivize any frivolous complaints coming in or any just nonsensical complaints. And I'll go into a little background on this. Basically, what this would mean is if any complaint comes in that is just patently unfounded or just has no place in law or fact, then the person who is the complainant or the person who is the complainant, and these things are found by the hearing officer under that legal standard that this is just patently unfounded or no place in law or fact, can then order, based on their determination, that the complaining party be responsible for the fees for the party who has to defend against it. This is a commonplace in law. For frivolous lawsuits, attorney's fees are awarded fairly regularly. This was something we dealt with when I was at the Ethics Commission. We established a rule based on frivolous complaints, and if a party had to defend them based on, I know Mayor Robichaux has seen this process unfold, because these complaints inevitably would get politicized, and that's what you're trying to take out of the process here is politicized complaints, and that's what this ethics ordinance is attempting to do. And to go off of that, that is basically what we have instituted in these changes. We've really instituted a lot of process changes on how complaints are taken in. I'd like to highlight the current ethics ordinance as written starts with a complaint that's ultimately filed with the mayor. So immediately the politics are injected into this process. That complaint goes to the mayor, and then the 3 members of council are then chosen along with the city attorney to then determine whether a hearing is warranted or not. And I know Councilmember Beeson has brought this process up that in the last 20 years, none of these have made it through that process. The Board of Ethics is appointed by you all. There are 2 appointees per council member and the mayor, and then ultimately 5 would be picked to sit, if a complaint is filed, to sit in judgment of that complaint. They are then set off on a path with no one guiding the path. They are allowed to pick their own rules. They are allowed to pick how they conduct their hearings. They are allowed to pick whichever way they want to go forward. And I highlighted a couple issues with that, mainly in that you can have different burdens of proof applied, different standards of evidence, different standards just applied across the board from a different group to another different group. So there's no consistency in the process whatsoever. When we talk about citizen involvement or citizens sitting in judgment, like as in a jury, I think that differs in this process because in jury trials, you ultimately have a judge who is giving the legal instructions. They're making sure that the defendant, the state, or both parties, their due process rights are upheld, that the trial is staying on the tracks, that there are rules of evidence that are applied and evenly applied to both parties. There's a fundamental fairness factor. And with the way the current ordinance that we have on the books right now is crafted, we don't have those safeguards in place. And so the new ethics ordinance has those safeguards in place. It applies a burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt that is consistent across the board. The new ethics ordinance starts with an apolitical process in that the complaint is filed via the affidavit with the city clerk. Ms. Long takes in filing, she takes in these things as part of her duties. This is a standard thing where a lawsuit, I'll compare it to a lawsuit being initiated, it is filed with the clerk in Fulton County, if it were to be in Fulton County or wherever the venue may be, but it's filed with the clerk. And then a copy would be furnished to the city administrator, and then the clerk serves upon the party who the complaint is made against. They serve that complaint, and the due process kicks in from that point. The hearing officer would then be chosen, and the hearing officer is an attorney who has no ties to the city, no familiar ties to the city, and this is something from the committee process to the first reading. There was more safeguards in place made so that we are getting a totally neutral party that has no ties to the city that can take the complaint and look at the facts and circumstances and apply the law and ultimately make a determination of whether any of the ethics ordinances were violated or those ethical duties were violated. So what this new ethics ordinance process has done is has tried to really make this process apolitical. It's tried to take the politics out of this, take any biases or perceived biases out of the process. So that's the intent of what is being brought forward. And given this is the second reading, this would be the last time we'd be hearing this, and it would be codified as part of replacing the old ethics ordinance with this after tonight if the council were to vote positively for it. I'm happy to take any questions. I know there have been some that come up, but if there's any, I'd be happy to take them.
I just also want to say thank you, and thank you for using your expertise on the State Ethics Committee to walk us through these processes. Do any council members have questions or comments? Councilmember Philippi?
So I've noticed some concerns about the removing the residents from this process causing a lack of transparency. And as you have so eloquently stated, that is not at all our intention here. I'm wondering if there's some other things that we can do to alleviate concerns over transparency, and perhaps some of these things are already in place. Can we cause there to be a mandatory disclosure of all findings without discrepancy?
Yes, and actually part of the process here, no matter what the findings are, whether there's a finding of no violation or a finding of violations, it comes back to council for the report to either accept, deny, or modify the conditions. So you're going to get a report back that is in a public setting.
Okay.
And all of these, so any complaint too, would be subject to the Open Records Act as well.
What about causing public hearings to allowing the complainant to request and require public hearings?
I think that's certainly something that can be requested as part of this process.
Okay. And talk to me a little bit about how the attorneys are chosen, and is that process independent? Would the same attorney be used over and over from situation to situation?
No, there is going to be a list of 5 attorneys that are submitted should this pass. And from that point, there will be one chosen for say a complaint comes in. Out of those 5 attorneys, one will be randomly chosen. So it's not going to be the same attorney over and over again. It's going to be a rolling cycle of who's eligible or who ultimately gets chosen.
And a little more clarity on how these attorneys will be chosen? Sorry.
Well, they have to meet the geographical, I guess, constraints in here that they can't have a office within, or they can't be residents of Roswell. They can't have an office within 10 miles of the nearest border to the city. They have to have, I believe, 5 years. Let me get the actual qualifications. 5 years of practice.
Perhaps what I mean more is how are they identified? So what they meet all the criteria, but how are we identifying them?
Preferably, they are going to have an ethics background. I know someone who I will submit going forward was a former head of the JQC who investigated judges, so that they have this sort of background already in ethics laws and applying those to law and facts already.
Would it be appropriate to accept recommendations from residents if they meet the criteria?
Absolutely.
Any other comments? Councilmember Sells?
Could you restate your second one? I want to make sure I understood what your second point was.
Public hearings?
Yeah, can you explain that a little more?
Yeah, so any hearings associated with this would be done in a public setting should the complainant want that. So typically the person under investigation is probably going to want to keep things more private, but the complainant would have an opportunity to be heard publicly.
Okay, so my follow-up to that would be, I mean, I think we've seen tonight that some people will make things public no matter what, let's just say. And for public sake, I just want to make sure that it's not this would have to be, if we're going to allow that, it'd have to be after it's been determined to not be frivolous.
Correct.
Because we have, we set up a kangaroo court every week, I'm sure, if that were not the case.
Correct. And I maybe skipped over this with how the process would play out. One, the complaint's going to go to the hearing officer or the attorney who's handling the case. Ultimately, they're going to make a judgment call right there of, I'm going to look at the facts as submitted, the law as applied. And if it's just a totally frivolous complaint, I'll use the example of, say you recused from a vote, and then the complaint came in that you had not recused from that vote and that you personally
Facts and
benefited from
circumstances.
it. It's an open and shut right there because there's a record of it. And I talked about in previous at committee and in the first reading that most of these are going to be paper cases, that there's going to be a trail, a voting trail, or on paper that you have a business interest. So they're going to be able to marry that up fairly quickly and fairly obviously. So if something is frivolous, I do not expect it to go farther than getting the complaint and finding the evidence that's already available publicly.
Right, and the complainant, it's not a trial, so they're making their accusation in writing, and it's not, what would, in a public setting like we're talking about here, would they be testifying? Or would they, it seems interesting to me that the complainant would be the one who moves for this public trial. There's really no role for them beyond submitting the complaint. Am I correct in that? Or do they testify at this hearing, or what?
So the hearing officer can call to take testimony, but really you have the right to remain silent if you are the party.
Let's say somebody else.
Yeah. But the hearing officer can take testimony, and then the responding party can then cross-examine the person who would be, you'd have that right to cross-examination of the person who is, I guess, being questioned. So you would have that constitutional, that right built in to assert a defense and question any party that is called as a witness.
But what we're talking about at this moment is not just simply that. It's that the complainant has called for a public hearing, and I assume that that means that the complainant intends to speak. Am I misconstruing that?
I don't think the complainant would be, this would be something the hearing officer determines if there was a necessitate, or it's necessary to gather testimony.
Okay, but it's after the gate of
yes,
non-frivolous. It's based on whatever the evidence submitted leads the attorney who's acting
that there's
as
actual merits to the
on the
case.
merits, and in which case then it's public. Okay, I understand. Thank you.
I have a question. The prior process, did it have transparency and in public hearings that was used here in the city of Roswell? No, I'm just asking.
No.
Was there a public listing? Everybody's. I'm just asking because, again, if it was coming, you know, was it prior transparency that and/or public hearings prior?
No, there was not.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Beeson?
I understand some feedback from the community too regarding comparing residents being part of this process as a jury of your peers similar to a court system. However, in a normal court system, there's the function of voir dire where the attorneys for both sides would have the ability to question and eliminate bias from the jury. So for example, if it's a trial for a professional clown accused of arson, they're probably going to rule out the person who's a potential juror who has a deep-seated fear of clowns because they're going to be inherently biased. In this situation, every single person on mayor and council appointed the quote-unquote jury of their peers, so I have no idea how you would eliminate inherent bias when it is the coach of your kid's soccer team or your high school best friend or your neighbor or however else people on mayor and council found their appointments. Also, these are appointments unlike the rest of our boards and commissions. Any other board and commission that you typically see here come through council chambers, we've already vetted the entire process. We've interviewed that person. We have a chance to say no, not for your board of ethics in this situation. Each of us get 2 appointees, regardless of who those appointees are. I could pick an appointee that has a blood feud with Councilmember Brumley's family. It doesn't matter. She doesn't get to veto my appointment to the Ethics Commission. So in this case, I appreciate the effort to eliminate bias. I realize that it takes the component of resident involvement out of it that many people appreciated, but I also realize that that involvement could become a slippery slope without a proper vetting process. And again, to reiterate, this is also a format used in surrounding cities like Milton and Johns Creek. This was modeled after Johns Creek, and it followed the state ethics level process that you previously worked with, correct?
Correct, yes.
That's it on my end, thank you.
I have one other, and the other thing I just want to make sure we're all clear that the process, even once the complaint is submitted, it follows a consistent process. It's not 5 people who were appointed, then choosing to follow whatever rules, procedures they choose. It would be a consistent method, basically driven by law, as to how this would proceed and what would be considered appropriate evidence, those types of things within the legal system per se, even though it's technically an ethics complaint, it's quasi-legal system per se. So it's a consistent methodology also.
That's correct. It is a consistent process no matter who is the responding party. It's no matter what, it's the same process for everyone, as opposed to how it is now, where it could be a matter of different processes. You just don't know.
Mm-hmm. Councilwoman Brumley?
And on that vein, also, if you have, people who are just, residents that are not familiar with how things are or what are the standards of everything, and the investigation goes sideways, there's no consequences for them as well. Whereas if we use, attorneys, they are being held to a higher ethical standard. And so in the small change that they're chosen and have some bias and they don't recuse themselves, they could lose their license and their livelihood. So there are consequences for this, whereas right now the current process doesn't have it. Is that correct?
Yes, we have the state bar is our authority that keeps everybody ethically in line. So we're bound by those duty rules that the state bar promulgates.
Any other comments? Councilmember Salzman?
Thank you. Joe, we talked a little bit about this in the past. One of the things that I brought up was that, first I would like to say, I'm sure whenever what we have now was written, they thought it was a good idea. It was maybe a big step forward, but this is a grown-up city approach, and I really appreciate the hard work. This is well thought out, thorough, clear, and so congratulations on that for everybody who did it. I appreciate it a lot. The question I have is that, I'd like to take one more turn, and that is in, 2D, Romanet 1, 2, 3, we talk about conflicts of interest. And the feedback I'm hearing is that PAC money is one of the things that people are paying attention to and that they would like us to not be conflicted by. And so I would like to propose that we include in the conflicts of interest, and I've written this up for you, David, I'll hand it to you in a second, but a new Romanet 2, move to Romanet 2 down to 3 and so forth, but a member may not participate in a vote or decision on a matter affecting an organization or group that made PAC contributions to the member. That would be sort of move number 1. And move number 2 would be in following G, H would be, this would be the new H. PAC contributions means, in the definition section, PAC contributions means cash or in-kind contributions from a private organization which pools campaign contributions to donate to a member. And so what I'm doing there is saying, okay, we're not talking about how the disclosures work with respect to PACs. We're not trying to regulate PACs. However, we are, in our code of ethics, what I'm calling for, is saying that PAC money, like money from a developer or money from my next door neighbor, precludes me from voting on an issue that's specific to the PAC that gave me the money or the neighbor who gave me the money. Or just that we can't be conflicted immediate family members, or we have an entity that we have property, or we have some kind of interest. So I'm suggesting that we include and insert the language that I just read. David, here you go. In this ordinance.
Councilmember Beeson.
So to clarify, this isn't related to the bench of attorneys who would be on the Ethics Commission. You're saying that it would be part of the personal involvement process, voting while personally interested, correct?
Correct.
So how would you determine in that case how someone has a vested interest from a PAC? And I realize in this case it's a developer thing. I have a feeling someone rhyming with the name Shmushmermo probably talked to you. But in this case, I
write my own resolutions.
I'm just curious, though, as to how someone would determine what's affiliated with a PAC. So I'll use myself, for example. I was endorsed by Georgia conservation voters because of, first of all, I do environmental consulting for a living, but also because of my platform supported positive environmental approaches for the city of Roswell. So does that mean I would need to recuse myself, even though I have a master's in environmental management, from any item related to the environment because I was endorsed by Georgia conservation voters?
So endorsement isn't in play, but remuneration or consideration is in play. So if someone makes a contribution to you and a matter, look, obviously these questions are often based on our personal judgment. We have to decide, I may or may not recall that this particular person voted or paid me money in my first election, let's just say. But if I do, I should recuse myself. And if somebody points it out, I should recuse myself, right? So that's what I'm saying. And likewise, if a PAC has interest before this body and they gave me money, then I should recuse myself in regard to that issue that PAC is advocating for, that they gave me money in support of, because I'm conflicted in that. That's what I'm saying. And that's what I think 2D, Romanet 1 through 3 talks about.
I think Mr. Cusack has something.
And let me,
Council. Oh.
and I'm gonna lean on the campaign finance background I have. So at last count, I can't even remember how many PACs there were in the state. There were over 1,000. I'm trying to game out where you have, I'll use, it was Taylor English Strategies PAC. It's a subsection of the law firm. It's broken off as their government affairs division. They have clients that span every single industry in the state. Now, if you take, and this is the hypothetical, and I'm trying to wrap my mind around how to narrow this to actually make it effectual. If you took $500 from Taylor English Strategies, you would then be barred from probably voting on every industry, anything construction, from to the Atlanta Braves, to all their clients. They have the list of clients, I remember it was like 200. But it spanned all industries because they were a big lobbying group.
Well,
So
it's
that-
always good to reach for the absurd in your rebuttal. I understand that.
Yeah.
But let's,
I'm trying to
but here's
figure
the
out a
thing,
narrow-
how many flyers have each of us gotten saying getting the dark money out of Roswell politics and eliminating PAC money and those kinds of things? And I say, this is a good burden for us as elected officials to say, you know what? If this is something that is, I receive money from this organization that's advocating for this, and they are standing before us, and we'll have to, is that a judgment call? Perhaps. But I think that this is exactly what we're talking about in terms of ethics, is that we are standing, we are sitting in judgment of someone standing in front of us who gave us money. That is a clear play, in my view.
Councilmember Zach, and then Councilmember Hall.
So I think I'm generally in support of the concept Alan's trying to target here. I don't know exactly how to approach it. So I'm not necessarily going to make a motion, but maybe a recommendation. I think I'd like to move forward with the ethics as written, but I do want to strongly recommend or have staff look into trying to target the concept of what Alan is trying to do and come up with recommendations, because I might be a little privileged, honestly, but I would like to remove as much kind of money influence when it comes into politics, but kind of to what's being brought up. How exactly to do that, what we can do as a city, I don't know. So I generally am very supportive of trying to figure out how we could kind of remove that inherent bias from getting money from PACs, but I don't know the best way. I don't know if the ethics thing today is the best way. So that's kind of my thoughts or recommendations.
I thought I'd said after Zach.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. So I'm just trying to understand a little bit how this plays into our world. Like for example, the Atlanta Apartment Association sent me a check when I ran back in 2020, and I sent it back. I did not accept the check. Had I accepted money from the Atlanta Apartment Association, what would I need to do, or what would my behavior need to be?
I think under this, any vote involving apartments, you would then be required to recuse. Under this wording, and that's why I was trying to somewhat figure out a narrow way for that PAC's interest. But yeah, that's what I'm trying to workshop it right now to figure.
I understand.
Yeah, to not get to that absurd where it could be.
But the remedy is clear. The remedy is clear.
Yeah, the remedy would be
reject the donation.
Yeah, you would that, or you would have to recuse from anything involving apartments. Yes.
Councilmember Beeson.
So there's also an issue here too when you're talking about PACs. You're talking about a direct expenditure, but there's also independent expenditures, there's coordinated. So I'll use, for example, an IE. We as electeds or candidates can receive an IE endorsement, an independent expenditure endorsement, which means that that organization on their own behalf is using their own money without us being notified, that they're sending out mailers on your behalf. They are doing coordinated door knocks on your, or they're doing door knocks on your behalf, not coordinated with your campaign. In those situations, your campaign is financially benefiting from them, but we don't disclose because they're fully independent. There's a firewall. Saying that I'm a candidate, I cannot work with ABC PAC in order to make this Canvas Day happen, or I don't like the colors on this mailer. I do not talk to them. There have been times where I've received a mailer with my own face on it. I was like, huh, look at me, they used a good picture. There's times where you're not going to be able to have say in it, but that's a PAC expenditure that you benefited from. So how would you know to recuse in that? Also, this comes down to, without getting overly political, this is Citizens United. Supreme Court has allowed this. And unfortunately, when we create local laws that circumvent that, there's about 9,000 other loopholes that are recognized by the First Amendment that allow PACs to operate in this case. I think it's rose-colored glasses to try to look at it through a very narrow lens of, oh, I'm only concerned about developers, or I'm only concerned about apartment builders. But you're actually opening up, to Mr. Cusack's point, a very, very wide variety of PACs that exist out there for God knows how many different issues that impact a city, that you really could be painting yourself, all of us, into a corner to where we would have to recuse on just about any item. And to go to the comment on dark money, Lordy, do I know what it's like to be targeted by some dark money in Roswell elections? I could write a whole book on it. It's not fun. This isn't going to solve it, unfortunately, because Mr. Cusack and I got to know each other quite well before he came to the city of Roswell, when I was asking why is it that someone's able to send mailers without a disclosure of who they are as an organization. And there's something called magic words, apparently, that I learned about, not abracadabra, but as long as they don't say vote for, elect, don't vote for, anything that would have to do with an election, they can say Sarah's a murderer and she's been tried in other countries and she can't stand puppies, or whatever it is that they want to put on these mailers. They'll never be held accountable, because the way that those mailers are written, they are written by groups that specialize in elections who know exactly how to phrase it to skirt that law, where they don't have to be disclosed. And they even go as far as hand stamping them and using undisclosed P.O. boxes so that they can circumvent people knowing who they are and how they're trying to influence elections. PACs, however, disclose exactly who they are, what they're lobbying for, and what their platform is when they do disclose this cash to you, as opposed to dark money, which who knows what they're lobbying for? They could just be the neighbor who doesn't like you.
May I respond to that?
Councilmember Sells?
Thank you. So the first one was the independent expenditures. I think there are pretty substantial rules around independent expenditures, and we don't disclose those because, as you say, there is a firewall. I'm not arguably taking those, directing those. As you say, may not know about those, may know about them because they come to you, as you say, whatever the case may be. But there are rules around that. What I'm talking about is if you're taking money or I'm taking money from someone who is on my disclosure list, and it is a PAC, okay, then I'm making a conscious decision to opt into this game, okay? So the clear self-help is to not take PAC money. That's the clear self-help, and that's what I'm saying.
Councilmember Brumley?
I don't know why we're derailing the conversation. We are a municipality. Election law is incredibly complex, and that's why we don't do it. It's done at the state and federal level. We follow those ethics rules, and like Mr. Cusack said, there are a myriad of PACs out there money. I got this tiny money from a Hispanic organization. So that means that if a Hispanic festival is going to happen in Roswell, I have to recuse myself. I don't know what other things are there that they support. Like they said, it's Citizens United. I don't like it, but it's the law of the land. And starting to get into these nuances about who can give you money, who cannot give you money, that is very different from like my business, that's business with this person, so therefore I need to recuse. That is different for like, I live in this neighborhood, then I have to recuse. PAC is, again, election law. It's Citizens United, First Amendment speech. I cannot tell you how many people will start like trying to sue us if we start putting those codes in here. And what I want to go right now is to go ahead and work with what we have on the ethics ordinances, and we can revise that later, knowing what the consequences are. Again, we are dealing into First Amendment speech issues, and we're dealing with rules that have already been accepted by the Supreme Court.
Councilmember Sells?
So you began talking about election law. That is true. There is a lot of election law. But we're talking about an ethics ordinance for ourselves, and we're sitting here crafting it. Not the Supreme Court, not Citizens United. This body right here is writing this ethics law, and we have the opportunity to include PACs. That's not a first. Look, I'm all on board for Citizens United, just to be perfectly clear. And someone spending money on elections, I completely agree that that's a First Amendment right. What I'm talking about here is a matter of policy or law coming before me where I am clearly conflicted and I should recuse myself. And that's what this simple change does, is it says you have a conflict of interest, prima facie, somebody gave you money and they're standing before you, the end. I'm not sure what's controversial about that, but that's where I see it.
Any other comments? So, okay, so we had a motion.
Sure.
To.
David, do you? Joe, so, no, I got it.
I'm sorry.
I made two.
The public.
Wait, before, Alan, is there anyone from the public, City Clerk Long, that would like to speak on this topic?
There are no speakers for this item.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Hall.
Thank you. And thank you for the amount of work that you put into it. And no doubt our ethics ordinance needed to be revamped, updated, clarified, procedurally identified, and I'm on board with all that. What I'm not on board with is farming it out to non-Roswell residents, both from a cost perspective, but from a jury of your peers perspective. And I do know that some of our folks that did reach out to me that are currently on our ethics commission, they were a little bit, I guess, upset, or really that somebody would think that they would not have the highest integrity if pulled in for a case of ethics. I think that we need to keep as many things in Roswell and not farm them out, and perhaps there's still an opportunity to look at Alfreda's model, which does use an attorney and some residents as part of that. And the residents basically having the attorney could speak to, as Councilmember Beeson suggested, voyeur. They would be in charge of basically disqualifying any of the panel of residents that perhaps might have an interest if the residents could not self-remove themselves. So I really would like to see more resident input, residents involved in the process as far as with the attorney.
So any other comments? Councilmember Beeson.
As Councilmember Brumley had mentioned previously, I would also much prefer to, as opposed to amending on the second reading with an item that is materially different from what we've discussed for the introduction and the last two readings, I would much rather take the motion this evening strictly on as presented item number 6, with the understanding that your recommended changes can come forward at any time as an amendment to the ordinance itself.
Councilmember Sells.
Thank you. Well, I mentioned this in committee. I mentioned it first reading, and I'm mentioning it now. I have been consistent on this issue of including the PACs in this ethics, and so I believe it is appropriate. I think the amendment that I'm proposing is clear and concise and fits into the language and style of the document as written. I'm not doing anything crazy here. So I think it deserves an up or down on whether or not we amend this ordinance to include PACs and the requirement to recuse in the event of PAC acceptance or not.
Councilmember Beeson.
I understand that you had proposed that previously, but it was not actually amended to any of the documentation. So had you actually added it during committee, during first reading, it would show up just as the item that was added during the first reading, which you added, the line that you covered regarding the frivolous cases and compensation related to those. However, no language has been added to address anything related to PACs from any of those readings. So the item before us this evening is the approval of the ordinance, which is provided for us in the agenda as items, which was presented this evening, none of which addresses PACs.
Councilmember Brumley.
I would like to make a motion to pass item 6.
I think I will first have to, I will be taking Councilmember Sell's motion to amend, and then we would vote on that, and then we would take that. And/or if Councilwoman Hall wants to make an amendment after that in regards to.
Point of order.
I'm sorry.
You said that you're going to take the amendment first as a vote and then come back.
I said we would take a motion. If he wants to make the amendment, we would vote on whether or not that moves forward after Councilmember Brumley speaks. I'm sorry, Councilmember Philippi.
I just wanted to publicly express my support for Councilmember Zach's proposal of generally being in support of this motion by, or assumed to be a motion by Councilmember Sells, but tabling it until we have time to discuss and vet it out further.
Councilmember Sells, would you like to make a motion to amend?
I will. I'm going to make a point of fact first, and that is, Joe, I think I specifically asked you to come back to me with language on this. So the fact that it's not there, I decided to write it myself and include it as a motion. And I think it's clear, it's well written. It is not, there's not a whole lot of ambiguity in what I've written. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, there's not. It's just, it's just one of those, I gave you that example, and I'm trying to think off the top of my head about how to narrow this to make it, to make it make sense of the way PACs are constructed in Georgia and the way where you have those huge PACs that have multiple clients, of how to actually narrow that down to what the interest is for that particular vote. But doing it off the top of my head right now is
the business before us is how PACs operate in Roswell, not how they operate in Georgia. It's how they operate in Roswell. And what I'm saying is that I would like to make a motion, if that's all right. May I make that motion now?
Yes.
So I make a motion to amend. You want me to read these, David, or you want me just to refer to them?
Read them.
Okay. So I would like to make a motion to amend the ordinance as written in after 1G, which begins, member shall include, insert a new H, which is the definition of PAC contributions, which reads, PAC contributions means cash or in-kind contributions from a private organization which pools campaign contributions to donate to a member, and further to amend the ordinance after 2D Romanet I, which begins, a member may not participate in, and insert Romanet II, a member may not participate in a vote or decision on a matter affecting an organization or group that made PAC contributions to the member.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second? We'll take questions after. There is a motion to amend. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Hall seconds. All in favor, raise your hand to amend. And I'm not going to reread it. I apologize. Do I have everyone in favor to amend item number 6 to the red language? Raise your hand. 2. All opposed, raise your hand. 4, the item fails. Councilmember Hall, did you want to make another motion in regards to an amendment?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I would like to motion that we table this item for one more session, that we can get clarity on how we can model Alfreda's policy that includes residents, and also clarify the further discussion on the PACs.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Councilmember Sells. All in favor, please raise your hand for that amendment to table this motion for clarification. 3, all opposed. 3, so I get to pass? I passed, no, I'm sorry, I oppose this. So now we go back to the original item. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
To pass?
Yes.
Are we changing something else?
Motion to approve an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell, Georgia by amending Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2.5, Code of Ethics, to provide for penalties, to provide for codification, to provide for severability, to repeal conflicting ordinances, to provide an effective date, and for other purposes. This is the second and final reading.
Do I have a second? Councilmember Brumley, all in favor, raise your hand. 4, all opposed. 2, the item passes. Moving on to the city attorney's report is next on the agenda. City Attorney Davidson, please present the first item.
Thank you, Mayor. Recently, the mayor and I were contacted by the municipal judge who has been duly elected. He's in his third year going in his third year now as our municipal judge. He is actually moving outside the city limits of the city of Roswell and informed us of this. Under the state law, the city council is authorized to appoint a judge. Although our charter says our judge is elected, the state law trumps our charter and says that the council can appoint a judge. I would recommend that this council appoint the duly elected judge, even though he is moving outside the city limits, for a term of 2 years or until the next election or until the council decides what they want to do with the charter provisions as they are currently written.
City Clerk Long, is there anyone wishing to speak on this item?
There are no speakers for this item.
Are there any questions from council or comments? Councilmember Hall, did you want to make a comment?
Thank you, Mayor. I was just getting clarification about the state law.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion? Councilmember Beeson, do I have a second? Councilmember Sells, all in favor? Passes unanimously. City Attorney Davidson, please present the second item on the city attorney's report.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item I have is approval of a resolution to extend the temporary emergency moratorium an additional 95 days on the establishment of new data centers in the city of Roswell. As you know, earlier, this council passed a moratorium for 90 days on the data centers. Currently, the project is in the works. We are going to talk with some interested parties. I think we're almost done writing the ordinance. We wanted to give the data center people actually time to look at it, see what their issues are with it, and then bring it through the process. As you know, our process is about 3 months long, so we would ask for a 95 days extension on the current moratorium.
Thank you. City Clerk Long, are there any speakers on this topic?
There are no speakers for this item.
Does council have any questions or comments? Do I hear a motion? Councilmember Brumley. Do I have a second? Councilmember Zach. All in favor, please raise your hand. Passes unanimously. City Attorney Davidson, please read the last item on the city attorney's report.
Thank you, Mayor. The final item I have is a recommendation to go into closure at 5:30 on Monday, April 13th to discuss personnel litigation and/or real estate.
Do I hear a motion? Councilmember Brumley, do I have a second? Councilmember Zach. All in favor, raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Being that there are no other items, this mayor and council meeting on Monday, March 23rd, 2026 is adjourned.
We can still revisit that. I think we can still revisit that.